The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed like shattered glass under the sodium lamps as Terry Harlan slammed the penthouse door behind him, his heart pounding like a war drum. "You son of a bitch!" he whispered to the empty air, the words tasting like ash, as he clutched the forged documents that had just gutted his empire. Millions vanished into the ether, courtesy of the man he'd called love. In that frozen instant, betrayal wasn't a word. It was a blade twisting in his chest, carving out the boyish trust he'd buried deep after years of building walls around his fortune. Terry Harlan had always believed that love was the one investment without a foolproof exit strategy. At 35, he'd clawed his way from a cramped Queens apartment, where his single mom juggled night shifts at a diner to keep the lights on, to the pinnacle of Wall Street's cutthroat arena. Harlan Investments wasn't just a firm. It was a fortress, a gleaming tower of glass and steel on Park Avenue that whispered power with every traded share. Terry, with his sharp jawline, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that could disarm a boardroom, was the golden boy of finance. Gay, unapologetic, and richer than sin, he navigated the city's undercurrents like a shark, charming senators at fundraisers, outmaneuvering rivals in velvet-roped lounges. But beneath the tailored Tom Ford suits and the perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, Terry carried the ghosts of foster homes and a father who'd bolted before Terry could walk. Love? It was a luxury he afforded sparingly, like vintage scotch sipped slow, savored rare. That changed the night he met Gerald Voss at the Eagle, a leather-clad haven in Chelsea where the air hummed with bass and unspoken desires. It was a Friday in late spring, the kind where the city shed its winter skin and bloomed reckless. Terry had slipped in after a brutal merger close, craving the anonymity of dim lights and anonymous hands. He nursed a whiskey neat at the bar, scanning the room with the detached eye of a man who'd long ago learned to spot the wolves from the sheep. Gerald was neither. He leaned against the pool table, all lean muscle and effortless grace. His dark hair tousled like he'd just rolled out of a lover's bed, which, Terry would later joke, he probably had. Mid-30s, with hazel eyes that crinkled at the corners like they held secrets worth stealing, and a laugh that cut through the din like sunlight. He wore a faded Ramones tee tucked into slim jeans, scuffed boots that spoke of road trips and rebellion. Not the usual Wall Street clone, Gerald was a freelance photographer, he said, chasing light across America's forgotten corners, Rust Belt factories, Appalachian trails, the neon bleed of Vegas strips. "I capture the soul of places people forget," he told Terry, sliding onto the stool beside him, their knees brushing in that electric way that promised more. They talked for hours, the bar emptying around them like water down a drain. Gerald's stories wove magic. A dawn shoot in the Badlands where coyotes howled like lost lovers, or the ghost town in Nevada where he'd bedded a cowboy under a meteor shower. Terry, usually the interrogator, found himself spilling fragments, his mom's meatloaf Tuesdays, the sting of coming out at 16 to a congregation that prayed for his cure. By last call, Gerald's hand was on Terry's thigh, warm and insistent, and Terry, Mr. Calculated Risk, didn't pull away. Their first date was a picnic in Central Park, because Gerald insisted romance shouldn't start in sheets. He showed up with a wicker basket stolen from his sister's attic, crusty baguettes from a Hell's Kitchen bakery, prosciutto-wrapped figs, and a bottle of cheap Chianti that tasted like rebellion. They sprawled on a blanket near the Bethesda fountain, the city a distant hum, and Gerald sketched Terry's profile in charcoal. His fingers smudged black as he murmured, "You've got the eyes of a storm, quiet, but ready to unleash hell." Terry laughed, but the words lodged in his chest like shrapnel. No one had seen him like that since his mom, and even she had missed the cracks. Weeks blurred into months, a whirlwind of stolen weekends. Gerald dragged Terry to underground gallery openings in Bushwick, where abstract nudes bled emotion onto canvas. And Terry pulled Gerald into the stratosphere, private jets to Napa for harvest moons, where they'd fuck under starlit vines, bodies slick with dew and desire. Gerald's touch was reverent, mapping Terry's scars like sacred text. The faint line on his ribs from a bar fight in college. The tattoo of a compass rose on his hip that pointed nowhere but home. "You're my anchor," Gerald whispered one night in Terry's king-sized bed overlooking the East River, his breath hot against Terry's neck. "In this crazy world, you keep me from drifting." Terry believed him. God, how he believed. He introduced Gerald to his inner circle, Lila, his razor-sharp CO who eyed Gerald like a suspicious cat. Marcus, the bearish accountant who'd lost his partner to AIDS in the 90s and now lived vicariously through Terry's escapades. Even his mom, visiting from Queens, took to Gerald instantly, pressing foil-wrapped baklava into his hands and calling him that sweet boy with the camera. Terry floated, invincible, pouring pieces of his world into Gerald's hands. A vintage Leica for his birthday, co-signing on a loft in Williamsburg, late-night confessions over takeout lo mein about the fear that gnawed at him. Dying alone in a penthouse, his fortune a cold consolation. But love, Terry learned, has a shadow. Started small, fissures in the foundation. Gerald's shoots stretched longer, 2 weeks in the Southwest, a month in the Pacific Northwest, always with vague excuses about the perfect light. Bills piled up mysteriously. The loft's mortgage lagged. His credit cards maxed on gear Terry hadn't seen. "It's the freelance life," Gerald shrugged, kissing Terry's doubts away. "Artists starve before they soar." Terry, ever the fixer, covered it, wired funds for emergencies, co-signed loans for that big exhibit in Soho, felt noble, this role of benefactor, like he was buying not just Gerald's comfort but his forever. The hook that snagged them deeper was Aspen, a Christmas escape where snow muffled the world's noise. They rented a cabin off the grid, all exposed beams and roaring fires, and for 5 days, it was paradise. Mornings tangled in flannel sheets, afternoons skiing black diamonds, Gerald whooping as he carved turns, Terry trailing with the thrill of surrender. Evenings, mulled wine by the hearth, Gerald's head in Terry's lap as he read Kerouac aloud, his voice a low rumble that stirred something primal. On Christmas Eve, under a canopy of pines strung with fairy lights, Gerald dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but a promise. "Marry me, Ter," he said, eyes gleaming like polished amber. "Not legal bullshit, just us vows in the wild, rings from the earth." Terry, tears freezing on his lashes, said yes. They exchanged copper bands etched with coordinates of their first kiss, sealing it with salt and snow. Back in the city, the idol cracked. Terry's firm hit a rough patch, market volatility. A whistleblower scandal that splashed his name across the post. Harlan's high-stakes gamble? Insider trading probe? It was bullshit, fabricated by a jealous competitor. But the headlines bled cash. Investors bolted. Shares tanked. Terry poured nights into damage control, coming home to an empty loft, Gerald's side of the bed cold. When he confronted the distance, Gerald's smile was a ghost. "I'm here, babe. Just chasing dreams." The unraveling came on a muggy July night, the kind where the air clings like regret. Terry, fresh from a deposition that left him raw, stopped at a Soho bistro for a solitary scotch. That's when he saw them, Gerald, across the room, laughing too loud with a silver-haired exec in a Brioni suit. The man's hand lingered on Gerald's knee, possessive, and Terry's world tilted. He didn't storm over. He waited, nursing his drink until they slipped into the back alley for a smoke, or more. Hiding in shadows, Terry watched Gerald press against the wall, lips locked in a kiss that mocked every vow. Rage boiled, but Terry held it, tailing them to a hotel on Fifth. The next morning, he hired a PI, discreet, expensive, and the report landed like a grenade. Gerald Voss wasn't a drifter artist. He was a con man, alias stacked like poker chips. Gerard Voss in Miami, Jerry Vance in LA. A trail of broken marks, widowers, COs, lonely hearts bled dry. And Terry, the prize. Over a year, Gerald had siphoned $4.2 million. Shell companies, fake invoices for shoots, even the Aspen cabin retitled in a ghost name. The copper ring, melted down for quick cash. The confrontation was surgical. Terry lured Gerald to the penthouse with a fabricated surprise getaway email. The table set with candles and the last bottle of 82 Bordeaux. Gerald arrived buoyant, tie loosened, oblivious. Missed you. Storm eyes. He purred, reaching for a kiss. Terry slid the dossier across the Marble Island, photos, wire transfers, affidavits. Gerald's face drained to chalk. You played me, Terry said, voice steady as rebar. Every whisper, every touch, a goddamn script. Gerald's eyes darted, charm fracturing. Does not listen. I love you. The money, it was for us. A nest egg. Security. I got scared. Okay. The markets. Your stress. I wanted to protect you. Liar. Terry's fist clenched the stem of his glass. Knuckles white. You don't protect with forgery. You gut. The plea turned feral. Gerald lunged, grabbing Terry's lapels. I did love you, more than the others. You're different, real. We can fix this. I'll pay it back. Swear on my life. But Terry saw the calculation. The hook baited anew. He shoved him off, dialing security mid-fall. As Gerald was dragged out, cursing through tears. You owe me. You cold bastard. Terry sank to the floor, the ring's imprint burning his finger like acid. The empire teetered, but worse, the man who'd cracked his armor lay in shards. In the weeks that followed, Terry became a ghost in his own life. He lawyered up, froze assets, watched Gerald vanish into the ether. Rumors of Miami, then Vancouver. The scandal metastasized. Headlines screamed, tycoon toyed by lover. Harlan's heartbreak heist. Lila held the fort. Marcus crunched numbers for restitution. But Terry, he drank alone on the balcony, the city lights blurring into accusations. Coming out had been a battle. This was annihilation. Gay and scammed, America's favorite punchline. Yet in the wreckage, seeds stirred. Therapy in a Park Avenue walk-up, where Dr. Elena Reyes peeled back layers. Betrayal isn't the end, Terry. It's the forge. He volunteered at a queer youth center in Harlem, mentoring kids with eyes like his once had, hungry, hopeful. Sponsored art grants for struggling photographers. Anonymous, a quiet fuck you to the ghost. And slowly, The compass rose tattoo itched less, pointing not to loss, but forward. 2 years carved canyons. Terry rebuilt. Harlan 2.0, diversified into green tech, his net worth rebounding like a phoenix. At 37, he was leaner, grayer at the temples, but the smile, sharper, laced with wisdom's edge. Dates came and went. Flings in Fire Island beach houses. An architect from Brooklyn who ghosted after 3 months, but love stayed leashed. Until the gala. It was the annual Out 100 bash at the Metropolitan Museum, a glittering cavalcade of queer icons under the Temple of Dender. Terry, in a midnight blue velvet blazer, schmoozed donors, his laugh genuine for the first time in ages. Then, across the Nile-lit hall, a familiar silhouette, Gerald, older, wearier, nursing a flute of champagne. Fate's cruel jest, Gerald, now a curator at a midtown gallery, schmoozing the elite. Their eyes locked, and the room narrowed to a pinpoint. Gerald approached, hesitant, that old crinkle in his eyes. Terry. God, you look incredible. Save the poetry, Terry replied, voice silk over steel. What are you doing here? Working the room. Same as you. A pause, heavy as lead. I've thought about you. Every day. The air crackled. Unfinished business a live wire. Terry could walk. Instead, he nodded to the terrace. 5 minutes. Then you're gone. Outside, the city sprawled indifferent. Horns a distant symphony. Gerald lit a cigarette, Marlboros. Same as always, exhaling regret. I was a mess back then. Addicted to the rush. The con. You were the first who made me want out. But I panicked. Ran. Spent a year in rehab. Another scraping by. Now, clean. Honest. Even. He pulled a card from his wallet, Voss Gallery. Letterpress elegant. I curate stories now. Ones that heal. Terry studied him. The lines etched deeper. The hazel dulled but earnest. Why tell me? Because karma's a bitch. And I owe you more than silence. Gerald's hand twitched, as if to touch, then fell. That night. I see it in dreams. Your face. I'm sorry. For the theft. The lies. For breaking what was real. Words hung. Unspoken vows fracturing anew. Terry felt the pull, the old gravity, laced with new caution. Sorry doesn't wire funds, he said, but softer. Or mend a heart. I know. Gerald crushed the butt under his boot. But if there's a way. Coffee? No strings. Just closure. Terry hesitated, the compass whirring. Revenge? It slithered in his veins, sweet and sharp. Or mercy, the human choice. One coffee, he conceded. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. As Gerald walked away, swallowed by the crowd, Terry leaned on the balustrade, the Nile's reflection dancing like possibilities. The scam had scarred him, but scars? They mapped survival. And maybe, just maybe, revenge arrived not as a storm, but a quiet dawn. The coffee shop was a nondescript hole-in-the-wall on the Lower East Side, the kind of place where baristas tattooed manifestos on their forearms and playlists looped indie folk anthems from Portland transplants. Terry arrived early, claiming a corner booth with a view of the door, old habits from boardroom battles, where ambush was just good strategy. He ordered black coffee, no frills, and nursed it slow, the steam curling like unanswered questions. At 10:05, Gerald pushed through, scanning until his gaze landed. He looked smaller somehow, the curator's tweed jacket hanging looser on shoulders that had lost their swagger. "Morning," Gerald said, sliding in opposite, his smile tentative as a truce flag. He clutched a paper cup from the counter oat milk latte. Terry noted with a pang. "Same as always." "Thanks for this." No idea what I'd say, but here we are. Here we are, Terry echoed, the words a bridge over chasms. He studied Gerald's face. Crow's feet fanning like regret's fingerprints, a faint scar above his lip from God knows what misadventure. Time hadn't been kind, but it had humanized him, stripping the varnish of conman charm. "Start with the truth." "All of it." Gerald nodded, exhaling slow. He talked for an hour, unspooling the thread of his unraveling. Born in a dying steel town outside Pittsburgh, Gerald Voss had been the kid with a Polaroid, capturing his dad's rusted-out shifts at the mill. Mom OD'd on pills when he was 12. Dad drank himself into an early grave. Foster bounces led to juvie for boosting cars. "Adrenaline was my first fix," he admitted, voice rough. "Art school on a partial scholarship. But the streets called louder. Small-time scams to fund shoots that were mostly smoke. I convinced myself it was survival. Mark a rich widow in Boca for her late husband's Rolex collection. Ghost a tech bro in Silicon Valley after draining his Venmo for our future. It was easy. People see what they want. The starving artist, the soulmate. And me." Terry's voice cut clean. No tremor. Gerald's eyes dropped to the scarred tabletop. "You were the glitch. I targeted you at the Eagle, saw the suit, the loneliness. Planned the long con. 6 months. Max. Then bail with the haul. But you. Fuck. Ter. That picnic. Your laugh at my shitty sketches. The way you'd trace my tattoos in the dark. Like you were reading my map home. I fell. Hard. Extended it. Thinking I'd pivot, go legit. Pay back from some windfall gig. Then the market shit hit. And panic clawed in. I doubled down. Forged deeper. By the end, I hated the mirror more than you." Terry absorbed it, the coffee cooling bitter. Flashes assaulted. Gerald's head on his chest post-orgasm, murmuring poetry. The aspen fire crackling as they slow-danced to Nina Simone on vinyl. Betrayal's sting had dulled to ache, but hearing it raw, it reopened veins. "You left me hollowed out. Not just the money, the trust. I froze everyone after. Dates? They're transactions now. Safe. Shallow. I'm poison," Gerald murmured, but didn't look away. "Deserve that. Rehab cracked me open. Group sessions with guys like me. Ghosts of lovers haunting the room. Wrote you letters I burned. Tracked your rise in the trades. Harlan's Green Pivot. That Queer Youth Award. Proud as hell. Even from afar. Pride." The word landed odd. A spark in dry tinder. They lingered another hour. Conversation meandering to safer shores. Gerald's gallery show on Rust Belt revival. Terry's latest venture funding solar farms in the Southwest. Laughter slipped in, unbidden. A shared eye roll at a hipster's man bun across the room. When they parted on the sidewalk, Gerald's hand brushed Terry's arm, electric as memory. "This doesn't fix shit," he said. "But if you want more talks, I'm here." No agenda. Terry watched him go, swallowed by the Bowery's bustle, and felt the compass shift. Revenge wasn't a ledger. It was choice. That night, alone in the penthouse, redecorated minimalist, ghosts exorcised, he Googled Voss Gallery. The site glowed with promise. Exhibits on queer migrants, Appalachian queer folklore. Gerald's bio, curating truths once hidden. A click to the contact form. Fingers hovering. Dinner? My treat. Neutral ground. Katz's? The reply pinged at dawn. Katz's it is. 7 p.m. Grateful. Katz's Deli was a time capsule of pastrami heaven. Sawdust floors and ticketed counters where locals barked orders like old flames. They met amid the clamor. Gerald in a crisp button-down that hugged his frame just right. Terry in chinos and a Henley that bared the compass ink at his collar. Pastrami on rye. Towering pickles. The air thick with mustard and what-ifs. Conversation flowed freer, lubricated by seltzer and sidelong glances. Gerald confessed rehab relapses. One slip in Vancouver, blew a grant on blackjack, and Terry shared the youth center, a kid named Jax who'd inked his own coming-out story on canvas. Reminds me of you, Terry said. Raw talent, armored heart. By dessert, black and white cookies. Split like a vow, they were orbiting closer, knees knocking under the formica. Outside, under the awning as rain pattered tentative, Gerald's voice dropped low. This feels dangerous. Good dangerous. Terry met his gaze, hazel pulling like tide. It is, then, impulsive as youth. He leaned in, a kiss, chaste but charged, tasting of salt and second chances. Gerald's hand cupped his jaw, thumb tracing the scar from that long-ago fight, and for a heartbeat, the city hushed. They tumbled into rhythm after that, cautious as fencers. Coffee morphed to walks in the village, hand in hand past Stonewall's ghosts, where history whispered resilience. Gerald's gallery became sanctuary, late nights hanging frames, bodies colliding amid drop cloths and turpentine haze. Sex reignited slow, exploratory. Gerald's mouth reverent on Terry's thighs, Terry's fingers mapping new constellations on Gerald's back. A faded mill tattoo he'd never noticed. Steel heart, Gerald breathed post-climax, curled against Terry's side. Broke once, but mended stronger. Trust rebuilt brick by brick. Terry introduced Gerald to Lila over dim sum in Chinatown. She grilled him like steak. One wrong move, Voss, and I'll audit your soul, but thawed when he geeked over her vintage watch collection. Marcus hosted a barbecue in his Jersey backyard, grilling brats and vetting stories. Gerald's Pittsburgh tales earned a gruff nod. Even Mom, via FaceTime from her assisted living in Florida, beamed. Eyes light up same as before, baby. But slower this time, smart. Yet shadows lingered. Terry's PI, on retainer, fed updates. Gerald's slate clean, no red flags. But doubt gnawed. Nights when Gerald's phone buzzed anonymous, or he'd vanish for client meets that stretched late. Paranoia, Lila teased over martinis at the Dead Rabbit. Or wisdom, both, Terry admitted, swirling his gin. The market hummed bullish, his firm cresting waves. But love, it was the X factor, volatile as crypto. The Fracture Fault Line was a gallery opening in Chelsea. Gerald's magnum opus, fractured frames, portraits of queer survivors, AIDS vets, trans elders, runaway kids. The space buzzed electric. Critics from Art Forum, donors in Bespoke, air scented with Prosecco and ambition. Terry arrived fashionably late, pride swelling at Gerald's curation. raw, unflinching beauty that punched the gut. He found him in the back office, Tyascu, laughing with a lithe curator named Reese, all cheekbones and whispers. Their ease twisted something feral in Terry's chest. Later, amid toasts, Reese cornered him by the wine bar. "Gerald's a visionary," he purred, hand lingering on Terry's elbow. "We've collaborated closely, late nights, deep dives." The implication slithered, and Terry's vision tunneled. Confrontation brewed post-party. In the loft's kitchen, dawn bleeding gray through blinds. "Reese," Terry said, arms crossed like barricades. "Your close collaborator." Spill. Gerald's face crumpled. Not denial but defeat. "It's nothing flirtation." Ego stroke. "The opening stressed me, he was there. But I shut it down. To swear." He stepped closer, desperate. "You're it. The only. Swears were your currency once." Terry's voice cracked, old wounds suppurating. "How do I know this isn't Act 2? Because I'm not that man anymore." Gerald's shout echoed, fists balled. "I clawed back from the pit. For this. For us. Test me, background check. Polygraph. Whatever. But don't torch it on ghosts." The plea hung, raw as exposed wire. Terry stormed out, hailing a cab to the Hudson's edge, where joggers blurred and ferries cut wakes like escape routes. Hours later, buzzed on cheap bourbon from a dive, he texted, "PI's clear. But trust? Earn it daily." Forgiveness was a marathon, not sprint. They therapy tandem, couple sessions with Dr. Reyes, who dissected patterns like a surgeon. "Vulnerability is the antidote to control," she'd say, as Gerald owned his addict wiring and Terry unpacked his fortress mentality. Dates turned deliberate road trip to the Finger Lakes, where they kayaked mist-shrouded waters, Gerald snapping Polaroids of Terry mid-laugh, wind-tousled and free. Intimacy deepened, laced with honesty. One night, post-love in the penthouse sauna, steam thick as confession, Gerald traced Terry's compass. "If I ever slip, promise you'll call me on it." "Hard. Deal," Terry murmured, pulling him closer. "And if I wall up, drag me out." The idol peaked at a quiet vow renewal in the Badlands. Full circle, Gerald's dawn shoot spot, where they'd elope with the officiant named Sage. Rings upgraded white gold, engraved with anchored. Under Coyote Song, they pledged not perfection, but persistence, through cons and crashes, markets and mendings. But fate, that capricious bitch, had scripts unwritten. The call came at 3:17 a.m., shattering the fragile piece Terry had stitched from Gerald's redemption arc. It was Lila, voice a razor through the dark. "Terry, get to the office. Now." "It's bad." He bolted upright, heart jackhammering. Gerald stirring beside him with a mumbled, "What?" But Terry was already yanking on jeans, the penthouse a blur of shadows and half-packed regrets. Downtown traffic was a nightmare even at witching hour. Cabs honking fury, rain sheeting windshields like tears unshed. Harlan Investments loomed accusatory, its lobby a fluorescent tomb. Lila met him at the elevators, her usual polish frayed, hair in a hasty bun, blouse untucked. "Forensic teams upstairs. Marcus is en route." Her eyes, usually steel, flickered pity. "It's a breach internal. Millions siphoned, offshore shells. Traced to us." The word landed like a gut punch. In the boardroom, Screens glowed damning. Transaction logs spiderwebbing to accounts in the Caymans. Timestamps syncing with Gerald's client meets. Emails. Forged but clever. Terry's signature digitally mimicked on approvals for gallery expansions. $1.8 million. Vaporized overnight. And the kicker. Metadata pinging Gerald's IP from the loft. 2 nights prior. Terry sank into a leather chair, the cityscape mocking through rain-lashed glass. How? Insider job, Lila said, sliding a tablet his way. Sophisticated social engineering, we'd bet. Someone close. A beat. Very close. Dawn broke bloody as they pieced it. No forced entry. No hacks, just betrayal's quiet knife. Marcus arrived, bleary-eyed, crunching numbers that screamed conspiracy. Could be coincidence, he grunted, but his glance at Terry screamed doubt. By noon, feds were looped, SEC breathing down necks, whispers of RICO if it tied to organized rings. Terry's phone buzzed silent. He'd powered it off after texting Gerald. Don't come home. We need space. The loft felt like a crime scene when he returned. Mid-afternoon sun slanting accusatory across the king bed, where Gerald's Leica still lay charging. Terry paced, bourbon bottle in fist, replaying flashes. Gerald's laugh at Katz's, the Badlands kiss under infinite stars. Con or cure, the PI's all clear mocked him now. Clean slate, my ass. He hurled the bottle at the wall, amber shards raining like his illusions. Gerald showed at dusk, he turning soft as guilt. Face ashen, jacket clutched like armor. Talk to me. What's happening? Everything. Terry thrust the printouts. Voice thunder. Your IP. Your emails, my money. Gerald. Again. Gerald scanned, crumpling like foil. No, Jesus. No. I wouldn't. He collapsed onto the sofa, head in hands. Reese. That slick fuck. He cornered me weeks back. Post-opening. Knew about us. The past con. Blackmailed. Play along or he outs it all. Tanks the gallery. I stalled. Fed him scraps. Dummy logs. Nothing real. Swore I'd loop you in after the next board. Lies. Terry's laugh was hollow. Your specialty. Stalled till the grab. Check my phone. Gerald yanked it free, thrusting it over. Texts to him, stalling. Threats. And the IP? He was here. That late consult. I let him in. Idiot me. Thinking I could handle it. Desperation cracked his voice. Call the feds. I'll testify. Wear a wire, whatever. But believe me. Please. Doubt warred with memory. Compass spinning wild. Terry snatched the phone. Scrolling frantic, threads to our. Coded please. Back off. Or Terry knows everything. Timestamps aligned. Alibis thin but threading. Enough for a pause. Not absolution. If you're clean, prove it. Full disclosure, lawyers. Audits. The works. Gerald nodded. Broken but resolute. Anything. I love you too much to lose this. The storm raged days. Feds swarming the loft. Agents in cheap suits grilling Gerald like a perp. Reese cracked under pressure, admitting the scheme. A grudge-fueled heist targeting Terry's soft spot. Ex-lover scorned. He'd infiltrated the gallery scene, weaponizing Gerald's history. Funds recovered partial. $1.2 million clawed back. But the scar? Festering. Media frenzy ignited. Harlan heartbreak redux? Lover linked to second scam? Paparazzi camped the lobby, headlines twisting truth into tabloid porn. Terry's board convened emergency. Whispers of ouster. Lila fought tooth and nail. He's clean. You fossils. Data doesn't lie. But trust? It hemorrhaged. Nights. Terry crashed at Marcus's, staring at Jersey lights. Gerald's texts unread. Miss you. Fighting for us. Week 2. Fracture point. Gerald called from the gallery. Voice frayed. Exhibits tanking, donors bailing, whispers everywhere. But I won't run. Stayed for you. A pause. Wet. Or what's left. Terry drove over. Rain-slicked streets mirroring his turmoil. The space was a husk. Half-hung canvases. Echoey void. Gerald perched on a ladder, taping labels, sleeves rolled to elbows. Go, Terry said from the door. Save yourself. Can't. Gerald descended, eyes red-rimmed. You're my why. The con man redeemed or trying. If you can't see it. I see a pattern. Terry stepped closer. Air thick. Love as leverage. Every time. Gerald's laugh choked. Then end it. But know this. The first scam? Selfish rot. This? I die before hurting you again. He cupped Terry's face. Thumbs rough. Test me eternal. But don't quit us. The kiss was war. Fierce. Devouring. Teeth and tears. They fucked against the wall. Desperate. Clothes shed in fury. Gerald's mouth hot on Terry's neck. Terry's nails raking his back. Marking claim. Release came shattering. Body slick. But afterglow soured to silence. Dr. Reyes mediated the rebuild. Trauma loops, she diagnosed. Break it with boundaries. They drafted a pact, financial firewalls, weekly check-ins. Gerald's gallery on probationary Harlan Grant. Couples nights enforced. No work talk, just vinyl spins and vulnerability shares. Fear. Losing you to my past, Gerald confessed over Ty in the East Village. Yours, Terry. Believing the lie again. Healing crept. Incremental. Jax from the youth center interned at the gallery. Bridging worlds, his murals splashed queer defiance across walls. Mom visited. Hugging Gerald fierce. Falls make stronger roots. Boys. Lila thawed fully. Co-hosting a double date with her wife at a speakeasy in the village. Toasting to flawed fuckers finding grace. Yet the high wire trembled. A donor gala loomed, Harlan's big green tech pitch. SEC shadows lingering. Gerald offered to bow out. I'll fade. Let you shine. Terry refused. Together. Or not at all. The night arrived crisp October. The plaza's ballroom a swirl of tuxes and power plays. Terry pitched flawless, solar grids revolutionizing Appalachia. Nods to Rust Belt revival that echoed Gerald's roots. Applause thundered. Deals sealed in handshakes. Gerald, at his side in slim charcoal, whispered pride through the roar. But in the coat check, ambush, a reporter, Mike thrust like accusation. Mr. Harlan, sources say your partner's implicated again. Gerald paled. Terry's hand found his. Stealing. Old news. Rewritten wrong. We've sued for defamation. Truth wins. Flashbulbs popped. But they walked out linked. Unbroken. After party at the penthouse. Champagne toasts with Lila and Marcus. Laughter bubbling real. As guests thinned, Gerald pulled Terry to the balcony. City lights a carpet of forgiveness. We made it, he murmured. Ring glinting. Your storm. My anchor. Terry kissed him slow. Hudson winds whispering yes. Revenge? It had arrived not vengeful, but victorious love's quiet coup. Or so he thought. Dawn brought the email. Anonymous. Attached video. Gerald. In grainy cam. Meeting Reese in a dim bar, whispers. Cash exchanged. Insurance. The note read. Your boy's playing you still. The video looped merciless in Terry's mind. A toxic reel on mute. Gerald sliding an envelope across a scarred oak table. Reese's smirk blooming like rot. Their nod sealing some subterranean pact. Timestamp. Last week. Post-gala. When Gerald claimed a solo unwind at his old Chelsea haunt. Terry watched it thrice in the penthouse study. Dawn's pallor turning the screen ghostly. Before nausea won. He forwarded it to Lila. Verify. And powered off. Fleeing to the rooftop gym where he pounded the treadmill till lungs burned. Sweat exorcising the scream building in his throat. By noon, Lila confirmed. Authentic. No deepfake markers. Confront, she texted. Then decide. But confrontation felt like surrender. Another round in the masochist's ring. Instead, Terry vanished, grabbed a duffel, hopped a train to his mom's in Florida, the Acella's rhythm a lullaby of escape. Palm fronds waved indifferent as he rented a beater Chevy, driving coastal roads where turquoise met sky, radio crooning Springsteen anthems of blue-collar heartbreak. Mom welcomed him with hugs and hush. Boy troubles again? Spill when ready. He didn't just kayaked mangroves. Fished red snapper at dusk. Let salt air scour the wound. Gerald's calls stacked voicemails. Panic rising. Where are you? Reese bullshit. Swear it's old. A setup. Call me. Texts layered desperate. Photos of the loft's empty side. A scrawled note, believe in us. Terry deleted. Blocked. Drove harder. In Key West, amid rainbow flags and conch fritters, he bar-hopped Duval Street, flirting harmless with bartenders who saw his pain but not its pedigree. One night, a silver fox with sailor's ink bought him a rum runner. Looks like love's ghost got you good. Terry laughed bitter. More like a recurring nightmare. Back north after a week. The city hit like a hangover, horns blaring judgment. Skyline accusatory. Lila briefed over espresso at her midtown lair. Reese in custody. Spilling on a final score to fund his exile. Gerald allegedly the middleman. Funneling Harlan intel for a 20% cut. He denies. Fingers Reese solo. Feds want your statement. Terry nodded numb. The board's ultimatum looming. Step down or solidify. The loft awaited like a battlefield. Gerald's presence a landmine. He was there, gaunt in sweatpants. Takeout containers evidence of siege. You came back. Relief cracked to fear as Terry tossed the tablet. Video glaring. Gerald watched. Crumpling. Fabricated drop. Reese baited me. One last meet. Closure cash for your silence. I went to end it. Recorded myself confronting. Check the full file, hidden audio. Terry's laugh scraped. More tech wizardry? Spare me. Truth. Gerald lunged for his laptop. Pulling grainy back up, his voice. Tinny but fierce. Take your blood money and fuck off. We're done. Reese's sneer. Your boy's empire crumbles without me spilling. The clip cut. But intent scream set up. Doubt flickered. But trust? Shattered mosaic. Why not tell me? Terry roared. We had pacts, transparency. Fear. Gerald's whisper broke. Of losing you to one more shadow. Thought I could bury it solo. Like before. Like before. The echo damned. Terry paced. Compass tattoo throbbing. You're a black hole, Gerald. Pull me in. Then devour. Gerald sank to knees. Tears carving tracks. Then push me out. But no, I fought therapy. Honesty. Every goddamn day. For you. The plea pierced. But resolve held. Out. Now. We'll talk through lawyers' depositions. Divides. Gerald packed silent. Duffel thumping like heartbeats. Pausing at the door. I love you. Storm eyes. Always will. Gone. Hollowed again. Terry lawyered fortress. Restraining order. Asset freeze on the gallery grant. Feds hauled Reese. Who cracked wider, admitting the video edit. Gerald's confrontation genuine. Partial vindication. But the board pounced. Interim CEO Lila. Terry on leave. Headlines twisted. Harlan's love labyrinth. Third strike? He retreated to the youth center. Coaching Jax through a mural meltdown. Art's messy. Kid. Like life. Jax eyed him sage. But you don't quit the canvas. Isolation bred clarity. Dr. Rhea's solo. Betrayal's echo chamber. Break it with self-compassion. Terry journaled furious. Pages of rage. Grief. Glimmers of growth. Volunteered deeper. Queer hotline shifts. Where voices cracked similar tales. He took my savings. My soul. His response. Reclaim both. You're the author now. Months carved lean. Therapy marathons. Gym rituals. Lila's nudges to date. Safe beta. Like that barista with the dimples. Terry dipped tentative. A architect redux. Coffees turning to walks. But sparks fizzled. Gerald's ghost loomed large. The gallery shuddered. Whispers of Voss vanished. Rumors to Portland. Chasing rain-slicked frames. Then, spring thaw. A package at the penthouse. Unmarked. Inside, a leather-bound album. Gerald's handwriting. For the storm that saved me. Pages chronicled their arc. Polaroids from the Eagle Haze. Aspen Snow Angels. Badlands Vows. Interspersed. Letters unsent. Day 47 post-scam. Dreamt of your laugh. Woke hollow. Post-Reese. Fought not for money, but merit yours in me. Final. If this finds you, know I rebuilt solo. Gallery 2.0 in Seattle. Queer stories. No shadows. Wish you oceans of light. Anchor eternal. Tears blurred ink. Compass word home. Terry drove to Jersey. Marcus's barbecue a confessional. Still love the bastard? The accountant grunted. Flipping ribs. Like cancer, Terry admitted. But maybe. Remission. Lila greenlit return. Firm needs you. Heart 2. Board capitulated. Scandals faded to footnotes. Terry thrived, expanded grants to artist collectives. A Voss-inspired wing for queer narratives. Dates bloomed sporadic, but roots, shallow. Summer solstice. Impulse pulled west. Red eye to Seattle. Rental car hugging fog-draped I-5. The new gallery nestled in Pioneer Square. Brick facade etched with rain's patina. Inside, echoes unbroken. Portraits of survivors. Jax's mural guest starred. Vibrant defiance. Gerald, mid-tour with a gaggle of 20-somethings, froze mid-gesture. Post-class. They circled cautious in the back alley. Puget Sound a salty murmur. You came. Gerald's voice hushed awe. Older now, silver threading dark. eyes lined with earned peace. Letters hit hard. Terry's hands jammed pockets. Needed to see if the man's real. Gerald nodded, scarred lip quirking. Real as regret. Thriving here, clean cons. Just light and truth. A beat. You? Empire intact. Stronger. Miss the mess. Though. Honesty burned sweet. Laughter bridged. Tentative. Coffee nearby. Espresso roasts. No lattes. Stories spilled. Terry's hotline heroics. Gerald's mentorship of a trans photographer fleeing Texas. Hours evaporated. Orbiting close. Stay. Gerald ventured. Dusk gilding his plea. Weak. Trial run. Terry weighed. Compass steady. Weak. The days unspooled magic. Hikes in Olympic rainforest, where ferns whispered absolution. Gallery closings tangled in supply closets. Bodies relearning trust, slow, sacred. Nights in Gerald's loft, cozy. Cluttered with prints, they cooked risotto. Vinyl crooning Coltrane. Confessions over candlelight. I forgive you, Terry said one eve. Fingers laced. Not forget. Forgive. Gerald's tears fell free. Grace I don't deserve. But I'll earn. Eternal. Yet climax loomed unspoken. Terry's flight east. Empire calling. Airport dawn. They clung curbside. Rain a baptism. This isn't goodbye, Gerald vowed. Ring finger bare but intent clear. It's intermission. Terry kissed him fierce. Tasting future. Write the sequel right. Back in Manhattan. Distance tested. Daily calls. Surprise shipments. Pressed wildflowers. Scrawled haikus. Lila smirked. Long distance? Bold for Mr. Control. But it worked. Absence sharpening edges. Trust via transparency apps. Shared calendars like vows. Fall brought convergence. Harlan's National Summit on Queer Philanthropy. Seattle stop. Gerald keynote. Art as anchor. His arc bared. Con to curator. Love's forge. Terry in front row. Pride swelling. Post-talk. Backstage embrace. Proud, he whispered. Home now? Gerald asked. Eyes hopeful. Always was. Reunification wasn't a fairy tale montage. It was trench warfare, muddied boots and dogged marches toward dawn. Terry relocated partial, Harlan satellite in Seattle. Hybrid life of coasts and commitments. The penthouse sold. Proceeds seeding a foundation, Harlan Voss grants. Uplifting queer artists from margins. Jack's its inaugural ambassador. Gerald's gallery burgeoned. Annex for youth workshops where foster kids like teen Terry wielded cameras as shields. Domesticity crept charming. Mornings in Gerald's kitchen. Terry fumbling pancakes while Gerald snapped candids. Flour-dusted tycoon. Priceless. Evenings. Tangled on the couch to HBO docs on Stonewall. Hands absently stroking tattoos. Compass meeting mill. Directions converging. Sex evolved deeper. Not frenzy, but communion. Lazy Sundays where Gerald's tongue traced boardroom stress from Terry's spine. Terry's grip anchoring Gerald's hips through nightmare tremors. Conflicts simmered. Inevitable. A Harlan audit flagged creative accounting at the gallery petty, but echoing ghosts. Terry's knee-jerk, full freeze. Gerald's flare, control freak relapse. They stormed, doors slammed. Silences iced, till DR. Reyes via Zoom mediated. Triggers are teachers. Name them. Apology over foe in the International District. Steam veiling vulnerability. Scared of slipping back, Gerald confessed. You, losing the man, not the money. Terry's hand covered his. We're iron now, Bend. Don't break. Humanity bloomed outward. Mom's 90th in Florida. A Voss Harlan affair. Conch shells and drag queens toasting to late bloomers. Lila visited. Cooing over Seattle's Brucine. Grilling Gerald anew. Pass this audit, or else. Marcus retired south, bequeathing his grill with a wink. Don't fuck it up, boys. Yet the arc crested dramatic. Winter solstice. A Harlan Gala in Manhattan. Black tie philanthropy bash at the Whitney. Spotlit on queer legacy. Gerald flew east. Nerves jangling. Big leagues. Don't embarrass. Terry smirked. Just be you. Con man's charm. Curator's heart. The night hummed opulent. Donors in Vera Wong. Air scented with orchids and ambition. Terry keynote poised, foundation stats soaring. Grants birthing exhibits nationwide. Applause crested. Then, Mike handoff to Gerald for a surprise slot. From shadows to spotlights. He owned the stage. Voice steady gravel. Anecdotes of Pittsburgh pits. Cons confessed unvarnished. I stole hearts, then learned to mend. Laughter rippled, then tears as he credited Terry. My storm eyes, who saw redemption when I couldn't. Love's the greatest scam. Steals your solitude, gives back a universe. Spotlight swiveled. Terry, front row. Rose ovation swelling. Backstage. Embrace electric. Stole the show, Terry murmured. Lips brushing ear. Yours, Gerald replied. Hazel alight. After party swirled velvet. Champagne flutes clinking toasts. Lila cornering a senator on funding. But whispers slithered, a donor. Silver-maned and sly. Sidling to Gerald. Heard your history. Thus. Juicy. Harlan know the full tabloid trove. Venom-laced. Old rival scenting blood. Gerald stiffened. But Terry materialized. Arm possessive round waist. He knows every scar. Jealousy's unbecoming. Harlan. The man slunk. Crisis averted. Yet in the limo south to the airport, red eye for Seattle doubt surfaced. What if they dig? Past bites back. Terry's thumb traced his ring. Gold now. Etched tandem. Let M. We're the story, flawed. Fierce. Finished. Homebound. Turbulence rattled the cabin. Mirroring innards. Gerald gripped armrests white. Terry laced fingers. We've weathered worse. True. Smile cracked through. But this life? Worth every squall. Seattle welcomed gray-skied. Loft aglow with string lights jacks strung festive. They crash tangled. Release a punctuation on triumph, bodies sinking like symphonies. Gasps harmonizing vows. Dawn. Coffee brewed. They plodded forward. Joint exhibit in spring. Anchored storms. Terry's investments framed through Gerald's lens. Queer futures in focus. Years layered gentle. 40s crept. Grays silvering mutual. Lines etching laugh maps. Foundation flourished. Chapters in L.A. Atlanta. Bridging divides. Gerald mentored a cohort of ex-cons turned creators. His story syllabus 1. Terry testified to Congress on queer economic equity. Voice thunder for the voiceless. By kitsch brushed edges. Mom's passing quiet. Pancreatic shadow swift. They buried her in Queens. Under autumn oaks. Her baklava recipe etched on a plaque. Grief bonded deeper. Nights holding through sobs. Gerald's whispers. She saw my soul. Early. Forgave before I could. Crisis redux. Minor. A grant embezzlement, echoes faint. They audited joint, transparent as glass, no blame, just bolster. Team, Lila toasted via video, from her CEO throne. Unsinkable, climax soft, profound, their 10th anniversary. Not scam scar, but renewal's root. Badlands redux, but evolved, glamping under stars. Sage officiating formal, legal vows this time. Rings diamond flecked. Witnesses, Jax, now gallery whiz. Lila and wife, Marcus remote. Pledges raw, through cons and crashes. I choose you, in storms and silences. My anchor, honeymoon slow, cross-country drive, Route 66 reversed, Ticarius in Tucson, jazz dives in Chicago. Stops at old haunts, Pittsburgh Mill. Now artist co-op Gerald seated. Queen's Diner, mom's shift ghost honored with pie. In Napa, vines heavy, they fucked under harvest moon. Bodies timeless. Epilogue whispered human. No ever after glossy, but textured true. Conflicts came, market dips, creative droughts, but resolutions rooted in ritual. Therapy Tuesdays, forgiveness Fridays. Love matured wine-rich, less fire, more hearth. Quiet mornings reading obits mutual, afternoons volunteering tandem, evenings debating art over scotch. One dusk, rooftop bar in Manhattan, full circle, skyline glittering indifferent. They sipped Manhattans, Gerald's head on Terry's shoulder. Regrets? He asked, breath warm. None. Terry's arm tightened. You? The scam that started it. Gerald chuckled low. Best mistake. Led to this, us. Unbreakable. Below. City pulsed eternal. Wolves and sheep. Cons and cures. But up here, in their constellation, revenge had transmuted not cold dish, but warm grace. Unexpected, yes, but earned, every luminous mile. And in that hush, compass pointed true home, at last.